started. So first of all, I wanted to take the opportunity to welcome everybody here for our workshop on the elite funding program applications. And for those who are here with representing the applicants, we really want to thank you for what your organization does for this county. Obviously, we think it's important. The residents think it's important. We just really want to thank you for the efforts that you put out to bring enjoyment to many, many residents and visitors alike. Secondly, I wanted to thank Mike Williams and Phil Henderson, Melinda Pletcher, Julie Bujowski for agreeing to volunteer this morning. Their time, this is an important process, but their time to get this work done so that our TDC folks can get some thoughtful process feedback from us here this morning. Also wanted to say that Trish Rodriguez will not be here this morning. She has gone through the applications. She has scored it. We talked to Michael. He has no problem utilizing, from a legal perspective, utilizing her scoring, and he will mention that throughout the process this morning after we score on different things. And I know that Steve has some things he'll bring up at the end of the meeting, just briefly. But with that said, any comments or questions before we get started from any of the members? Okay, Steve, take it away.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you, members, for being here on a Friday morning, no less, and taking time to review all of the applications in our binders. I am going to turn it over to Tim and Craig to start walking through the process. Hopefully this everyone's done their homework, they're ready to score, ask questions, and we'll go through and have this completed in an expedient manner. So, Tim, turn it over to you.
All right, very good. Thank you. Good morning. As a reminder to those who have been in this process before and those who are new, let me give you just a quick overview of where we are in this process and where we'll be going. Today's session is to give the review committee an opportunity to score your applications and make a recommendation to the full TDC, which will follow next week. After TDC review and approval of the applications and the funding recommendations, it'll go to the BCC next month at some point. Once the BCC approves the funding recommendations of the TDC, we will reach out to you as staff and schedule meetings and begin the process of working through the funding agreements, which basically will be the deal term sheets, as many of you are aware of. And then we obviously will go to contract and try to get you on your way and collaborate on how we can help promote your event. Today's session is about scoring by this review committee. We are not expecting presentations. This is about questions and answers on your application. So if you are asked to come up and answer questions, don't necessarily feel like it's a full presentation of your entire application. It's just simply questions about specifics in your application. So having said that, first order of business, Chair Agers, would be consideration of the fast track, which are Valspar Championship, Outback Bowl, Clearwater Beach Day, Sugar Sand Festival, Hooters Clearwater Offshore Nationals, Clearwater Jazz Holiday, and the 28th Annual King of the Beach. These events have been funded for at least the previous 5 years.
Okay. Any comments from our members here? Any questions?
Mr. Chairman.
Yeah, Mike.
As this Valspar event takes place at Innisbrook and on our Copperhead course, I will not be scoring this and will sign documents accordingly with Michael Zoss.
Okay, thank you, Mike.
Thanks.
Anybody else? Do I have a motion for consideration of the bypass?
So moved.
Bill?
Second.
Second from Mayor Bujowski. Okay, all in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion carries 5-0.
Okay, next up, Category 1, our first application and only application in Category 1 is Pelican Lpga Women's Championship. I would ask the committee members if there's any questions, we can call up a representative, have them answer anything, and if not, we can move to scoring.
Any questions? Bill?
Can I ask their representative to tell us a little about their marketing plan? It's a great outline of the marketing plan, and it says you're going to do 50,000 in TV and 25 in radio, but do you have any specifics yet?
Yeah, we're actually still working on that. We've got our executive director, Marcy Doyle, who has joined us. She was the executive director for the Arnold Palmer Invitational, and she's joined us within the last 6 weeks. There's going to be some TV, some radio, but we're also going to add quite a bit of digital as well to that mix. So my gut is probably in the next 2 weeks we'll have everything finalized, but we're moving forward and excited about the event.
So is there any additional besides the 125 going to marketing?
Yeah, I mean, there may be another 75. It's going to depend. It's a new event, so a lot of it's going to depend on sponsors. We're excited about some of the sponsors who are going to help with this. The Tampa Bay Lightning, who are a sponsor of our event, we're going to some of our advertising is going to come through the games themselves with our event in November. That should be good timing with the Lightning season kicking off in October, and we're also talking with the Bucks as well. So I think there's going to be some traditional marketing, but you're also going to see some partners are going to step up, especially with really a first-year event with fans to take this to the next level.
Speaking of the fans, you've got 50,000 for attendance,
Yep.
unique attendees. The other ones you give examples for around the state have 80,000 over 4 days, 35,000 over 4 days. Those aren't all unique attendees necessarily. There's going to be people there for all 4 days and some that are there for one, some two,
Yeah,
so forth. Is it just a best guess and you're open for that?
It kind of is. You know, it's hard. We've got some of the events that we manage across Florida and across the country. I mean, it's really anywhere from 35,000 to 80,000. The CME event, which is in Naples, the week after ours, is one of the bigger events in the Lpga, and that's the 80,000. We're expecting around 12.5 a day, somewhere around there. So maybe up to 15. That may be a stretch, but we'll be to that 50 to 60,000 over the 4 days for sure. We feel good about it. We've had a ton of interest from pro-am participants, which we kind of look at that as a small piece where we've sold out our Wednesday, we've sold out our Monday, we may even actually add a third day, and we kind of look at that as almost a small microcosm of what will happen with fans. And so I think we're going to see a good amount of fans that are going to be interested in that, and not just coming for the event. We've had a ton of people that have asked about other events that are around, so we're not expecting a 1 to 2 day stay. I think this is going to be more of a, hey, we're going to come to Florida for vacation for 4, 5, 6 days, and that's, if you look at the room nights and what we've got we're estimating 4,000 fans out of the 50 that will come in and stay for 4 or 5 days, and that'll get that room night number up.
Well, we certainly hope it's a big success.
Yeah.
With a big tournament like that in the area.
Yeah, we're excited.
Let me ask, have you had any early commitments from players?
Yeah, we have not this early, but we feel great especially with where we're at. We were a little unsure when we started last year, actually in 2019, when we had the May date, where it was kind of we weren't quite sure. There was an Asian swing afterwards, but with the date in November, and then the next event is the CME Championship down in Naples, I think we'll have 100% commitment. Everyone's very excited about it. The women loved the Pelican Golf Club last year. Sure. A lot of great responses from that. So we're excited about it, and I think they are too.
Good.
This
Yeah.
is exciting, so thank you for bringing it to our attention.
Could you
Absolutely.
turn your microphone on, Melinda?
Hi, thank you for bringing this to our panel. It's very exciting, but I just wanted to see, it looks like you've kicked off your ticket sales and packages as of January 21, and so I'm sure this funding would help escalate, the outreach for that. How's it gone so far?
It's gone really well. So right now, all that we have sold is our higher end hospitality areas. We're going to kick off our overall ticket sales that first week of July for that Freedom Week special, which I think is going to be fantastic, and we're going to use that and promote it. But that's going to be the big kickoff, and when we start our marketing, will probably be a little bit later. I think we'll wait until probably the fall. But we've already have a waiting list of people who are waiting for just general admission tickets, and so we'll start selling those. But again, we've got a lot of sponsors who are asking for big bulks of tickets that we're including there. So we've already got thousands of tickets that are already sold. So we're feeling good about where we're at.
Okay,
Another question, if I may.
go ahead. We'll come back to you.
Do you have a long-term commitment from the Lpga to have the tournament here?
We signed a 3-year deal when we started in 2019. I don't expect that to, and we'll extend that as we go. I mean, they're excited about the event. The Doyles and the Pelican Golf Club are excited about the event. I think it's a great match, but normally it's a 3-year commitment that you just extend.
So you're contracted through 22, and then you anticipate extending after that?
Correct. Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
Phil?
Last question, you said the general admission or the tickets would all go through charities and they would keep 100%. What charities have you identified to be selling the tickets?
As of right now, the only charity that we have that we're working with is the Morton Plant Foundation. But there will be additional charities, and we're working through that. And my gut is we'll have that done in the next maybe month or two. There's a couple different ones that we're looking at.
What are you looking at?
I don't want to say yet. We're close, and we want to keep it local too. That's extremely important. But if you have some suggestions, we're open to hearing anything. I mean, a lot of the charities and the components are kind of tied to, like for instance, the Heroes Outpost that we're going to have, on site. There's going to be a charity component there, but we've got a couple other ones that we're looking at as well.
So how would one go about buying tickets? They're going to go online and purchase them, and then the money is going to go to a specified charity?
Yeah, I think it's going to be more just a portion of all tickets that we're looking at are going to go back to a charity. So it's going to be whatever we still have to come up with the percentage, but that's what we're looking at.
I know years ago the Valspar used Rotary clubs, I think, to sell tickets. There was all the local Rotary clubs were involved.
Okay.
That was. So I remember that was back before all this digital online.
Yeah, I mean, our long-term vision of this event, we have, the first event was fanless, right? I mean, we did the best we could, but we were able to give some money back to Morton Plant. But again, this event is going to be a fundraiser for charities. That's the bottom line. This event wasn't created as a profit revenue, right? This is about giving back, and that's imperative to the owners of the event and the operators, us as well. So.
And that was kind of my question. It looked like last year you just had the one foundation that you gave money to. That effort is changing this coming year.
The Morton Plant Foundation is going to stay.
Right.
So it's a Birdies for Babies promotion. Right. So $50 for every birdie that's made is given back to the foundation. But there's going to be more as we continue, and there may be a percentage that goes back for ticket revenue. Okay. But there may be also some other, bringing on different sponsors similar to that with Baycare, and how we can drive money back to charities through the sponsor partnerships.
Did you have anything, Tim? Steve? What's the...
So Kyle, could you please state, because we have a core reporter here, state your full name and who you represent, and everybody in the audience that's going to come and speak. If you would please identify. No, I should have announced that at the beginning, so please just identify yourself.
Kyle Draper, formerly Iger Marketing. We went through a name change, and we're now Outlier, and representing the Pelican Women's Championship.
Okay, Mr. Chair, if you want, we can go through the scoring at this point.
Yep, please.
Okay, why don't we start in rotation? Mr. Henderson, your score. Total score. 795?
795.
There you go. Ms. Pletcher. Okay, you want us to skip and come back? Okay.
750.
750? 750.
Mike?
Okay. Mayor Bujalski.
750.
750. Chair Akers.
750?
750. Mr. Williams.
750.
750.
Do you want,
We'll do the tabulation live here, and we'll announce what the score is before they sit down.
and read Trish's as well.
Sorry, yep. Trish Rodriguez's score, correct?
705 for Tricia.
705.
$750 is the average.
Okay, 750. All right, thank you very much.
Okay, thank you.
Next up, we begin Category 2, and the first event application is Enchant St. Petersburg. Do we have any questions for the applicant?
No, but if they'd like to come up and just take a minute to tell us a little bit about the event, be helpful.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Nancy Hudson, and I'm the general manager for Enchant St. Petersburg. I'm fairly new to the company. I just joined in January, so I wasn't here for the 2019 event. But we are thrilled to be back in St. Petersburg, again, working very well with the Rays. And we have some new traditions to start with Enchant for 2021, including a brand new story for the maze. So while we hope to really have a lot of the guests who came in 2019 come back and return and see our wonderful event, we'll also have a brand new maze and story for them to see. We'll also have ice skating. We'll have a wonderful, wonderful Santa experience this year, as well as the village and market, much like 2019. We want to just thank you for this wonderful opportunity for this funding, and I'm happy to answer any questions that you might have.
Any questions? Phil?
Can you give me a little more detail on the community support? I mean, who else is involved besides your organization in the community that's supporting the whole process? The city of St. Petersburg?
I'm sorry, can you restate the question?
Well, there's a lot of support for a lot of these things in the community, and I didn't really see that anywhere in here. And that's one of the the history of your organization, and then the community support that is gathered around this event. I think it's
Sure.
pretty
So,
bad, but-
well, I'll just say the community support for the event is very important to us. We're working with both the City of St. Petersburg and the Greenhouse to make sure that we're aligned with their initiatives and can collaborate on further things. We were able to do quite a few donations last year, cash donations and ticket donations in 2019. We definitely like to continue to do those. I think from a support factor, the fact that we're bringing many jobs, we'll be able to have a lot of the venue staff that typically work for the Rays. We'll have hundreds still able to work throughout the entire season, which is really important to us, as well as bringing in many new Enchant employees, which help with hotel rooms and also more employment in the area.
Great, thanks.
Any other questions?
How many attendees did you have last year?
In 2019, they had just over 300,000. Yeah, we anticipate about 350 this year.
Any other questions?
All right, no questions. We'll go to scoring. We'll go to you, Ms. Plesher.
Sorry.
775. Okay. Mayor Bujalski. 700.
Yeah, 700.
Chair Akers.
800?
800. Mr. Williams.
775.
775. And Mr. Henderson.
805.
805. Thank you.
Tricia's score, 930.
Thank you.
Average of 797.5.
Okay. All right, next up, we have the Martin Luther King Jr. Parade weekend.
Morning.
Good morning. My name is Anthony Hart. I'm with Advantage Village Academy.
Go ahead. If you have just a few things you want to talk about
Well, Mlk Parade, Advantage Village Academy took over the Mlk Parade about 5-6 years ago. and we've been growing it ever since. The attendees averaging around 150,000 people for the parade. This past 2020, we did not have it because of COVID. We did a virtual parade, and it was a great success with that. But so far this year, we've had about 10 bands, universities call us to participate in the 22 parade, along with about another 8 or 9 high school bands from around the state as well. And we're looking just to improve on our numbers for the 2022 parade.
Questions? Phil, go ahead.
In your response, you gave us sponsorship opportunities for people to buy in, but specifically, what are the sponsorship opportunities for St. Pete Clearwater, Visit St. Pete Clearwater, your event? How are you promoting our logos and our involvement?
Well, we're partnering with the city of St. Petersburg, and on what we're doing is the marketing piece of it is whoever sponsors us, we can take their logo, and we also, you can have a link on our page as well that go directly to your site. Even with Pinellas Tourism, that we've worked with them as well in the past, where the search engines can go over, if you're on our site, you can go to a different site as well. And with the marketing pieces and sponsorships with that, it's just all connected to one.
But specifically, so you've got a link on your website to Visit St. Pete Clearwater. That's what I'm asking. Specifically, we're sponsoring the event
Yes.
with these dollars. So what's the give back there as far as sponsorship exposure without having to buy one of these packages on top of that for
Well,
Visit
with
St. Pete
that,
Clearwater?
I think that with the St. Pete Clearwater tourism link being there, if you come to our site, people see that, and then that brings more beds, more heads to beds with us. We get tourism in, because we do have over quite a few numbers, thousands of people that come into that will stay in our hotels, visit the beaches and stuff as that.
Is there anything during the parade? Is there any signage or any recognition of St. Pete Clearwater?
And past,
Visit St. Pete Clearwater.
excuse me?
This organization, Visit St. Pete
Right,
Clearwater.
we've, the banners that comes along with it, you're in the parade yourself. So, can put a float in it if I'm, and we just go from there. But as far as the banners that comes out, whoever sponsors, we get banners and we put them along the parade route. We have banners made up of each company that sponsors us. And the parade route is about 2-3 miles long, and with the barricades blocking out the road, several banners of the companies are stretching the parade route. And then at our family fun day that's in Tropicana parking lot, we have banners set up around that as well, because we have vendors out there. We set up rides for the kids. It's free to the community as well.
Okay, thank you.
And just for information, if everybody could turn their microphones off unless you're speaking. They're getting a lot of feedback back there. Any other questions? Okay.
I will go to scoring. We'll start with you, Mayor Bajowski.
850?
850. Chair Agers.
750.
750. Mr. Williams.
775.
775. Mr. Henderson.
705.
705. Ms. Bletcher. 750. Okay, 750. And Trish Rodriguez score.
740,
740.
Thank you.
Thank you.
average of 761.7.
All right, next up, we have the St. Pete Pride.
Hello.
Hi, I'm Tiffany Freisberg. I'm with St. Pete Pride. We are Florida's largest Pride celebration. We are the 12th largest Pride celebration in the country. In 2019, we had over 265,000 attendees across the weekend. 2020, we unfortunately had to cancel. This year, we've reimagined what Pride looks like a little bit to accommodate a celebration. We are right in the thick of it, and it is going very well. And next year will be our 20th anniversary, and we think potentially St. Pete's largest Pride celebration ever. So I'm happy to answer any questions you have.
Questions? I'm not seeing any. Just if you give us just a minute for some scoring, it'd be great.
All right.
Just give us a minute, please.
Sure.
Thank you.
Okay. Everybody ready? Okay, go ahead.
All right, Chair Eggers, we'll start with you.
800.
800, 800. Mr. Williams? 800. Mr. Henderson?
775.
775. Ms. Fletcher? 825. 825. Mayor Pachowski?
I gave them the whole shebang, 1,000 points.
1,000. I think we just made history. I don't know if anybody's 1,000 points. Okay. And Ms. Rodriguez,
925.
925.
Average of 854.2.
54. Okay. All right, that concludes Category 2. We'll move into Category 3, and the first application is Dtsb Songwriters Festival.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Dan Connolly with CMG Tampa, Special Events Director. Our event's the second annual Dtsb Songwriters Festival. It's a 3-day celebration, 4-day celebration kicking off on Thursday in downtown St. Pete, celebrating music and singing, songwriting. And our partner is BMI, which is the largest music licensing company in the world. And our event features over 100 free acoustic performances around downtown St. Petersburg throughout the weekend from singer-songwriters from all over the country. Our charity is the Music Therapy Department at St. Johns Hopkins All Children's Hospital in St. Pete, and they use music to help heal the most vulnerable in our community, so we're supporting them. Our inaugural year was 2019, and we're returning this year, November 4th through the 7th. And we thank you for your consideration, and we're looking forward to growing. This was our first year just 2 years ago, and we're excited about the groundwork we've already laid in other markets and continuing and grow that brand with your support.
Questions? Phil, go ahead.
Same question I had last time. Can you explain a little more about your sponsorship benefits? There was a link here, and I wasn't able to get into it, but
Yeah,
anyway.
there's a whole page. So the event takes place over 3 days in multiple venues. So there's upwards of 20 to 30 different venues around St. Pete. And we invite the team, just like we had a couple years ago, to come out and join us at all of those events, whatever ones make sense for them, whether it's handing out, whether it's participating in our event. Logos, obviously, on everything we do in digital and printed materials. They can have a booth on site, whatever they want to do. We're totally open. We have a large footprint to work with, many different spaces. So we encourage them to be creative and work with us. We also have a lot of pre-promotion, so we will be flying in songwriters to create social pieces and putting them on the beaches and things like that in order to kind of paint the picture of downtown St. Pete and things that are going on around the community. So in doing so, we encourage Visit St. Pete Clearwater to be incorporated into those and matching your taglines and your vision for some of those events and supporting those with those videos.
Are you aligned at all with the Key West Songwriters Festival?
Only in that BMI supports them too. So they're partners with Key West and also the one in Fort Myers. What's it called? Song Hopper Music Festival in Fort Myers. So BMI supports both of them. So we kind of glean off information from BMI
Right.
and best practices.
Yeah, just for everybody's benefit, I've been down in Key West during that, and it's a real big deal down there.
Yeah,
It
they're in
happens
the-
in May, which is kind of when they're falling off on their season, and it's an extender, if you will.
Yeah, they're 21 years this year,
Right.
and Fort Myers is 7 years. So there's a history of these events working, you know, and we saw great success in our first year. I mean, I'll be honest with you, we were going into it not knowing how we would be able to judge success. But I'll tell you, on that Sunday afternoon, as we were walking around, we had schedules that had lists every half hour where you could go to a different location and see a different songwriter. And we literally saw people with those walking around, kind of looking, all right, where am I going next? And it was I'm getting chills talking about it, just because it was a great experience seeing people engaged and doing that. But with that said, it's hard to track the attendance with such a big footprint. So we're utilizing the numbers that you guys did as far as the surveys
Right.
as our measurement.
Great, thank you.
Mike?
Question, in 2019, you generated 944 room nights? Excuse me. In 2019, you generated 944 room nights. You're projecting 5,000 next year?
Yeah, I mean, it's a goal. I mean, listen, if we double, triple it, it's a win. But we're committed to this event. As the company is committed to it. We lost money our first year. We're not, you know, we believe in music. We believe in the power of music. We're being the radio stations that we are. It supports our brand. So we're in it for the long haul. And we just are asking for partners to kind of support us in that same vision. And it's going to take some time to get there. And we also believe it's hard to track the exact number of rooms given our event because we don't have just one entrance into our event that we can measure. So, you know, it's tough. It's tough to generate, or at least prove that we're generating the number of rooms that we need to.
Great,
So.
thank you.
Any other questions, comments? Okay, Tim?
All right, we'll start with you, Mr. Henderson. Score?
735.
735. Ms. Pletcher, 750. Mayor Bujalski. You can't go any higher than 1,000.
650.
650. Chair Akers.
725.
725. Mr. Williams.
750.
750. And Ms. Rodriguez, score?
$805 for Tricia Rodriguez.
Thank you.
735.8 is the average.
735. Okay, thank you. Moving on, the next event will be the 12th Annual Standing Ovations Masters Cup.
Hi.
Good morning.
Good morning, welcome.
Good morning. I'm Justin Tramble. I'm the Assistant Parks and Rec Director for the City of Treasure Island. Thank you for giving us the opportunity to partner with you again. Hopefully, this will be the 12th Annual Standing Ovations Masters Cup presented by Visit St. Pete Clearwater. We've worked with Visit St. Pete Clearwater for the past several years. I believe this will be our 4th year, hopefully. Standing Ovations is an international sand sculpting event that we host on the beach in Treasure Island, November 18th through 21st. Last year we had a strange year like everybody else. I'm sure everybody in this room is looking forward to more of a normal event year. With that said, despite the changes we had to make last year, we still had a significant economic impact. If you look at the data that was provided with our application. And this year, we plan to build off of that momentum. So we certainly appreciate the partnership. We utilize the money to market not only our beach, but the beaches in Pinellas County as a whole. So with that, I'll take any questions that you have.
Any questions? No? Okay,
All right.
thank you.
We'll go
Thank
to-
you.
we'll go to-
Give us-
Thanks,
yeah,
Justin.
Just give us a minute, please.
Yep.
Everybody ready? Anybody need more time? Huh? Yes? Okay, just give me 1 minute. Ready? Everybody ready? Okay, go ahead, Tim.
All right, Ms. Pletcher, we'll start with you. 800. Mayor Bajowski.
850.
850. Chair Agers.
750.
750. Mr. Williams.
850.
850. Mr. Henderson.
865.
865. And Greg will put.
Tricia's score 905, average is 836.7.
Okay, very good. All right, next up, we have the St. Pete Bike Fest.
Good morning. How are you?
Good morning.
I miss
Welcome.
you guys. Glad to be back in this capacity. I'm Keith Overton. I used to present this event on behalf of TradeWinds, where I was the president for 26 years. We sold the company in October of 2019, and the new ownership and I agreed that I would keep this event and carry it forward to a new venue that I own now called OCC Roadhouse and Museum, which opened last night, by the way, a selfish plug. I'd love to have you out for dinner. It's located on a 10-acre campus on 49th Street North, where the Burt's Barracuda Harley-Davidson dealership is located, so we share that facility. And the challenge that we had at TradeWinds, quite frankly, was that the event grew to be so big. Two problems happened. We always wanted it to be a ticketed event. It got up to about 75,000 people. We were unable to really fence an area off that size to control it, and we just didn't have enough parking. So through mutual agreement, we transferred the ownership of the event to the OCC Roadhouse and Museum, where we're going to host it this year. We were fortunate enough, Steve and the group did destination analysis, did a study on it. It generated 17,000 room nights in the last year assessed, and an economic benefit of $23 million to the county. I think, frankly speaking, it's going to do a lot better now because we can control those elements that I mentioned earlier, and we can distribute the room nights throughout the county a little more evenly. It was beach-concentric then. Today, it's much more centrally located. It's as quick to get there from South Tampa or from the North Tampa area as it is from St. Pete Beach or perhaps North Pinellas County. So we really think the event is going to grow exponentially. Hopefully, it'll be elevated to the next level of funding in years to come, but that's our synopsis for now, so thank you. Any questions?
Questions? Melinda, go ahead.
This one's a little bit more near and dear because I've gotten to see this event grow every single year, and it's and there's no one who can market not only Visit St. Pete Clearwater, but this event better than this guy. So very exciting.
Thanks.
Opportunity.
Anybody else? Okay. Go ahead. Yeah,
You all ready with your scores?
yeah, go ahead.
Okay, start with you, Mayor Bajowski.
850.
850. Chair Agers.
900.
900. Mr. Williams.
800.
800. Mr. Henderson.
850.
850. Ms. Pletcher. 900. Okay. And Ms. Rodriguez scores at
Score of 900 from Tricia, average is 866.7.
866. Okay. All right, thank you, Keith. Next up, we have the Gasparilla Bowl.
Good morning. My name is Scott Glazer. I'm the Executive Director for ESPN Events and the Gasparilla Bowl, based here in Tampa, Florida. A little bit about me. I'm born in Chicago, moved here when I was 5, so Tampa and the Bay Area is my hometown, and look forward to continuing to grow this event in partnership with Hillsborough County and most certainly Pinellas County. We as a company own and operate 34 events across the country. Our model is all NCAA based, with a focus on impacting student athletes' lives through the game of football, and then building in the opportunity to impact the communities that we support. And so in doing that, last year we were put through as an approved partner. Unfortunately, due to COVID, like a lot of people, our game was canceled 4 days prior to kickoff, 2 days prior to teams arriving due to complications with South Carolina's football team. And so we are kind of restarting now in terms of putting that plan from last year in place for the current year. Historically, our conferences primarily focused on Conference USA and the American Athletic Conference. Moving forward with new contracts, those two conferences are still partners of ours, but the focus is moving forward with the SEC and ACC. So we work closely with Tim and Craig, and look forward to working close with them again moving forward.
Questions? Okay. Just maybe speak a little bit to your charitable contribution piece.
So our primary foundations and partners that we work with, we try to touch as many areas as we can. So the Mike Allstott Family Foundation has worked with us for a number of years, and we partner with them in terms of some of our youth sports and sports buddies clinics, as well as Mike's passion, our passion to visit various hospitals in the area on both sides of the bay. We then work with the Jackson in Action 83 Foundation. Unfortunately, those who knew Vincent had a tragic death recently, but his focus and foundation works primarily with veteran and military families. We also then work with the Bullard Family Foundation, which is a focus on the underserved and communities, with a focus on youth and their families and trying to give them opportunities that they may not otherwise have. And then we are also reintroducing a prior relationship with Feeding Tampa Bay and utilizing a Drive Down Hunger program, a play on words from a football perspective, knowing that that will then touch 10 different counties in the surrounding area, so that we could try to give back as much as we can, not just to where our game is located, but all of those areas surrounding the game.
Okay. Any other comments, questions? Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Go ahead, Tim.
All right, we'll start with you, charities.
800.
800, Mr. Williams.
900.
900, Mr. Henderson.
735.
735, Ms. Fletcher. 825, Mayor Bajowski.
775.
775, and Trish Rodriguez.
Score of 680 from Tricia, averages 785.8.
Okay, very good. Thank you, Scott. Next up, we have Festivals of Speed. Joe, good morning.
Morning.
Morning, I'm Joe with Festival of Speed, 17th annual event this year, January 23rd. We display 300 to 500 of the world's most exotic and classic cars every year in Vinoy Park. Charitable donation, we use a variety, but Friends of Strays has been the charity for the past 3 years. We receive about 20 to 22,000 spectators every year. We operated this year. We were the first large event in downtown St. Pete, and we operated under COVID and actually had a very successful event. So we're looking forward to getting back to Vinoy Park January 23rd with this event.
Any questions? Phil?
I've got a lot of question marks on this one. I was trying to pull this back up to figure out exactly where I was on it. But your marketing plan, I think it uploaded, it just gave the same thing that was somewhere else in the presentation. Can you tell me more about how you're marketing outside the area to bring people in? Or is this just a festival that's for all these beautiful vehicles for locals to see?
No, we market all over Florida, Georgia, primarily the Southeast. I drop about 35,000 pieces of first-class direct mail through Orlando, South Florida, up towards Naples, of course into St. Pete as well. But really, I've operated the Ritz-Carlton for 16 years in Orlando, so I have a massive database there. So I target that extremely heavy. Of course, I don't just use direct mail. I use radio. I do tons of digital marketing, like everyone does this day, very successful. Our email database is over 100,000. My demographic is not just high-end exotics. It's classic cars, luxury models, high-end BMWs. I have probably 200,000 people in that database that we reach out to every year. So predominantly for this event, we're targeting those cities that I mentioned, and of course, St. Pete in the area, but we're pretty well known in the car world in St. Petersburg.
And then the sponsorship opportunities?
Yeah, that's one thing I think somehow I overlooked to put in there. So Visit St. Pete would be, their logo can be on every single ticket, every email, every promotional piece. They could also set up at the event if they wanted to. So we're totally open to that. I think we missed that in there. I don't know how, but
Okay.
but
Me.
yeah, we would put that in writing, of course, as well. So
And then your local community support?
yeah, Friends of Strays, but I donate thousands of tickets. I actually donate sponsorships as well to companies if they want to sell them and keep 100% of the proceeds. So, for example, car dealer could have a free sponsorship. They sell it, and that money could go right to a charity, 100% of it. We do that for the last 17 years between tickets and sponsorships. Of course, we write a check too, as well. And we're always looking to add a charity.
Okay, thanks.
Anybody else? Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Go ahead.
All right, Ms. Williams, for your score?
Yes, 800.
800. Mr. Henderson? Okay, 1 second. You want to skip? Okay, Ms. Pletcher? 775. Mayor Bajowski?
650.
650. Mr. Chair Akers?
750.
750. And Trish Rodriguez's score?
830 from Tricia.
Okay.
805.
805.
Average of 768.3.
Okay.
What was the average?
768.3.
Okay, next up on the agenda, we have the Dunedin Highland Games and Festival. And Mr. Chair, don't know if we want to consider it under Category 3 or as a cultural event or Category 4. The funding is up to 25 under either of those categories. It's just the criteria is just a little different in terms of there's no requirement for room nights under Category 4. So procedurally, we can consider it now, and you can consider it under either category if you really prefer.
What's the thought? Is it a legal issue, or is it just a policy?
I think Mr. Ramsberger framed it correctly. It could be considered under either category. It's to the advantage of the applicant to be considered a Category 4 because there is no room night consideration in that. So I would point that out to this group. But they definitely fit under the cultural heritage event definition, which is a Category 4.
Okay. Okay.
They qualify under either category.
Yes.
All right,
Yes.
well then.
Do we care?
Huh?
Do we
No,
care?
the question was raised, and I wanted to make sure we didn't gloss over it. It was raised to staff, and I just wanted to make sure there was no
It's
issues.
there's a higher bar for Category 3, that's all.
Yeah, that's all. So they qualify on their application under Category 3.
Do we categorize them, or do they submit to a category?
They submit just up to what their request is.
So they're not submitting to a specific category?
Correct, and
We
that's-
put them in, okay.
That's part of the challenge here from a staff perspective, is that we wanted to make sure that
Okay.
we're handling this the right way. So this would be considered right now as a Category 3.
3, okay.
Okay. So,
Everybody comfortable leaving it as a Category 3?
yes, okay.
Okay. Pat, hi, good to see you.
Hello there. Hi, good to see you. My name is Pat Snare, and I'm with the Dunedin Highland Games and Festival for the last 55 years. We have quite a history in Dunedin. The purpose of the Highland Games was started back 55 years ago, and our sole support is for the bands for the Dunedin Highland Junior High, at the time middle school, Dunedin High School, and our City of Dunedin Pipe Band. And this is where our funding has gone every year that we have been in existence, like I say, which was the sole purpose for starting the Highland Games. And we have touched the lives of thousands of kids. And now we have, through all of the efforts, we now have the #1 pipe band in grade 2. And a lot of people don't understand what
In the world.
In the world.
In the world. Let's just be
Thank you.
clear, in the world.
In the world, okay. There are grades for piping. Grade 5 is beginning 4, 3, 2, 1. We are #1 in the world in grade 2. We have now been bumped up to grade 1, and we are looking to have grade 1 competition at our Highland Games in Dunedin coming up in '22, which most people don't realize, but the Highland Games is really an international festival. We draw people from all over North America. We are grade 1 champion in North America, soon to be in the world.
Pat, that event that you're talking about that's coming, that you said just now, you just said that there's an event coming next year?
Oh, that's the Highland Games.
Oh, that is the Highland Games
At the Highland
itself.
Games,
Okay.
we're going to add grade 1 competition.
Okay.
So we will be pulling from, all over the world and North America. And also because we are the sister city with Stirling, Scotland, we are working on getting the provost from Stirling to come to Dunedin. We've had several provosts in the past come over and represent Stirling at our games, and so we're going to do that this year.
Questions? Melinda, did you have a question?
What a great event. I just had a quick question. The timing of the event, I guess you always have it during our peak season, tourist season. Is that something it's always been those dates, or I'm just thinking hotel rooms are harder to find if we're attracting a worldwide audience, and
Right.
just wanting to understand the logic on the date.
Okay. What the issue that we run into is because we are dealing with the schools, that we have to work it around spring break and Easter holidays, because if the kids aren't in school, you can't catch them. And it's like herding ducks. So when they're in school, they're available with the band to come participate and that sort of thing. So every year, we've always had to work around the spring break and that sort of thing. So therein lies the reason.
And it's kind of a week-long event, right?
It is. It's a week-long event. We have our pipe band march, which we have all the pipe bands that come to participate from, especially all over the United States. We have the march downtown, so we include the whole downtown of Dunedin in our event, along with the day of the games, and have people, come. The other thing that we do have at our Highland Games is one of the dance instructors in Dunedin is an adjudicator for the Southeastern Highland Dance, and they have the Southeastern Highland Dance competition at our Highland Games, which brings well over 200 Highland dancers and their families and everything, because they come and compete to gain points to compete all over the United States. So Dunedin is a part of that.
Awesome.
Yes.
Any questions? Okay.
You ready to score? All right, Ms. Williams.
I had 750, please.
750. Mr. Henderson.
$750.
750. Ms. Pletcher. Ms. Pletcher. 750. Mayor Bajowski, you're limited to 1,000.
No, 900.
900. Okay.
I thought she had to recuse. I'm kidding.
Yeah, well, then you would too.
That's true. 850.
850. And Trish Rodriguez.
600 from Tricia. The average is 766.7.
All right. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you all very much for your time.
All right. Next up, we have the 29th Annual Spring King of the Beach.
Amy Verdinski from the Old Salt Fishing Foundation.
Thank you again for the opportunity for funding again. The Spring King of the Beach is the largest kingfish tournament and festival in the country. We have over 600 teams come together and compete for over $300,000 in prizes. It's a highlight in the boating and fishing industry, and we also highlight John's Pass with our fishing heritage. It's very unique because our teams come and spend a week, and we also have been getting quite a spectator crowd at this point as well. And we are an all-volunteer organization, so everybody there gives back, and at the end of the day, all of our money either goes back into the community, or we take a lot of pride in getting fishing rods in kids' hands. If there's any questions?
Questions? Thank you.
All right, thanks, Amy. We'll go to scoring, Mr.
Hold
Anderson.
on.
Oh,
Just
sorry. you
give
need
us a
some
minute, please.
Might put Trish Rodriguez's score up there.
Anybody need more time? More time? Okay.
Okay, start with you, Mr. Henderson.
790.
790. Ms. Pletcher. 825. Mayor Bajowski.
750.
750. Chair Akers.
700.
700. Mr. Williams.
750.
750. And Trish Rodriguez score.
745 from Tricia, the average is 760.
760 average. Okay, that concludes Category 3. We'll move into Category 4, and we have next up the St. Pete Run Fest, and I believe County Attorney Mr. Zoss has something to say about this.
Yes, thank you. Commissioner, I would suggest to the TDC subcommittee that they need to make a determination in this particular event whether or not it meets the definition of a cultural heritage event. Under the guidelines, I will read the definition. It says it's an elite event that recognizes and or celebrates community history and identity, bonds to the past, present, and future, and or values and traditions that attract tourists from VSPC's targeted markets. This category was pretty much created to capture those events that have a kind of historic tie-in and community tie-in. So it would be up to this group to determine whether or not they feel like this category, this particular event meets that definition for consideration. Thank you.
Well, I'm going to look to staff to talk a little bit about that because, you know, we've put them in this category for a reason, so I want to understand the rationale for that.
We actually don't place applicants. It's based upon the application itself, and they, in their application, just indicated attendance figure and not so much room nights. And so based upon the four corners of the application, they default down to the Category 4.
Okay.
So we don't steer them in any particular direction here.
Okay, so then, all right. So perhaps we'll hear from you.
Hi.
Hi there.
Good morning. Ryan Jordan with Endorphin Sports representing St. Pete Run Fest. Good to see everybody. Thanks for the opportunity. A little bit about St. Pete Run Fest. We started this 4 years ago to fill a void in St. Pete, which was left by Rock and Roll Half Marathon, which drew a lot of folks to town. And we thought the city really needed a reason to get folks in healthy and attract folks to our beautiful city. So we became the official running event of the city of St. Pete 4 years ago and have seen incredible success since its inception. So our real goal with this is to inspire wellness, inclusivity, drive, charity. So part of the event last year, or 2 years ago, unfortunately we weren't able to have it last year, able to contribute over 5,000 meals to the St. Pete Free Clinic. And then the sustainability is a huge piece of what we do as well. So we were able to really do a huge job in terms of building event guidelines for sustainable events to keep our beautiful waters clean. That all being said, we had over 6,000 runners last time we were able to hold the event. of which 20% were from outside of the community. So we're able to drive, roughly 3,000 hotel nights and just under 10,000 total participants. It is a weekend-long event, so we're getting folks to our community. And from a historical perspective, it's a history of running. All seriousness, it's a big event in our city. And if you guys are familiar with Gasparilla and Tampa, we're well on our way to create that same type of energy, not the party, the running event, in St. Pete. So, and I'll welcome any questions.
So just on the you said there's 10,000 runners.
6,000 runners, 10,000 participants. The last year we had it, correct.
Okay.
This year, and I'll address that right off the bat, the great news is because now we're going into year 4, we're seeing tremendous support for the event. If I look at forecast models from previous years, we're already at almost 5,000 runners this year. Typically we get, we double our number from July to the race date, so we're expecting over 10,000 runners this year. From participation, just for industry averages, so you guys are thinking, well, how do we get to 20,000 runners, or participants, I should say. On average, every runner brings another individual with them, so we're able to double that number. So we're anticipating over 20,000 people that will participate in the weekend, either running, volunteering, sponsoring, or actually participating in the race events.
Okay. Go ahead, Mike.
Commissioner, if I may, I don't know if this will offer some assistance, but you have one other event in this category, which is Localtopia, and they have a description as to what they provide, but they are highlighting traditional kind of St. Pete businesses and kind of history there. So that's a comparison you might want to consider in this one. And also, this event, this category was created by the TDC a few years ago as a result of some events like Mlk, which had the ties to the community history and past. So that's just to give you a little context as to how you look at this particular event, possibly.
Yeah, Mayor.
Hi.
Hi.
This category is cultural heritage, and as our attorney just described, when we created this, and it was a question about the Highland Games as well, and the Mlk. Those kinds of things celebrate our heritage, our culture, and so we wanted a category for that. How do you fit into that category? Because we've got a lot of runs around the county.
Sure.
Maybe not supported by this organization, but there are any number of them.
Sure. From a cultural standpoint, we're really trying to drive, wellness in our community is what we're trying to do. This event, by the way, I know that if you haven't experienced St. Pete Run Fest, this is much more than just a race. I mean, the running piece is part of it. This is really a festival and a celebration of St. Pete. And that's, much like Localtopia, we're very much celebrating what makes, Pinellas County and St. Pete unique. It happens to include some world-class running events.
Thank you.
Phil, go ahead.
So we're trying to, years ago, this was a new product development and then a special event grant, and then it turned into every weekend festival was coming in asking for money.
Sure.
So we've got to be very careful with this because, as she says, as the mayor says, there's a lot of running events around the county, and then we're going to kind of set a precedent to line them all up to come in to ask for help with their local run.
For sure.
And that's why we've got to make sure that there's more to it. And do you do any outside marketing?
Yeah, of course.
Outside the county?
Yeah, I mean, we actually work very closely with Visit St. Pete Clearwater to find markets that we can parallel. So drive markets, Orlando, Central Florida is a huge part of our go-to-market in terms of marketing. We spend on average 10% of our total revenue on marketing with a heavy slant on digital. So we're able to drive attendance and see growth every year as a result of that. So very much targeting markets that we can highlight what makes Pinellas County great to get folks here, which I think is evidenced by the fact that we had 45 states represented at the last race. We had over 10 countries show up in terms of representation. So yeah, I think our reach is growing year after year with a heavy emphasis on markets which Visit St. Pete Clearwater is targeting, so we can amplify that message.
So, again, the category 3, which has certain performance measurements, right? This doesn't sound like you've hit those. Is that what I'm, staff, looking at staff? We don't yet hit those so that the quote-unquote, the strict benefits from unique attendees and nights is not reached by the event yet. Is that what?
Yes, to qualify under Category 3, it's 10,000 unique attendees and 5,000 room nights. Under Category 4, it's just 20,000 unique attendees, no room nights.
And this is, and this has not been funded before.
Not through this program. We have funded it under our sports and events program, our incentive funds, but at a lot lower amount.
Okay. Yeah, well, I mean, I share some of the concerns that it doesn't fit into the cultural and it hasn't reached that level of performance yet. Again, I think the concern here is that there are, I don't want to call it hundreds because I'm not, I used to be a runner, but now I'm a walker, so I don't go to a lot of the events.
You're welcome to.
Yeah, okay. But so there's a lot of them all over the place. And so I think the concern is if it's not an elite event that hits certain categories, then it really doesn't need to be considered unless it's a cultural group. And I think this group needs to make that recommendation to the TDC that we believe this is a cultural event. And I'm not sure that I'm hearing support for that. But, just want to open that for further conversation. This will, Steve, this is a recommendation to the TDC? Okay. So all of these go forward to the TDC?
Yes, so everything we've discussed today will go to the TDC. The TDC then will vote to support or not support.
So they could drop some or elevate some?
Yeah, in fact, last year in their TDC meeting, there was one event that the committee had not recommended funding. When it went to the full TDC, actually somebody said, hey, I didn't score it the way I should have, and it ended up getting funding at the TDC.
Okay, so it can change. This will go forward, but I think this group needs to decide what is, yes, Mayor.
When I read the definition of cultural heritage event, it shall mean an elite event that recognizes or celebrates community history and identity, bonds to the past, present, and future, and or values and traditions that attract tourists to the targeted market. I don't think this event does that. I really don't. And it's no offense to you. I think it's a great event.
Thank you.
I just don't think it meets this definition. And if you're on track to increasing, then maybe you will have hit those numbers for the Category 3 next year. And again, it's kind of similar to the Highland Games. They came in thinking they would be under the cultural event because the Scottish heritage, it's a long-standing event, 55 years, that kind of thing. So if you look at it that way, or the Martin Luther King Parade, again, it's a cultural event.
Sure.
Versus a run and a festival after.
Sure.
So I don't think it's a cultural event.
So just so I'm clear, do we vote on whether it's a cultural event, or we just go ahead and score? If we don't score, does it move forward? That's, I guess, the question. Because there are some, at the TDC, there are some St. Pete members that we could hear further from that might, change the thought process. So,
well, we will collect those scores, so we will have them of record. So at the TDC meeting as a full, if there's a discussion and there is an interest in scoring it because they determined that they do believe it
so we just go ahead and
you
score
can introduce
it. We'll
those
just go ahead.
scores.
We're not going to.
You don't have to announce them today,
okay.
but you can definitely submit your scores, and staff will have those.
All right, well, I'm all right. I'm not trying to keep Melinda. Go ahead.
Okay, I'm new here, so I'm just trying to, figure this out because obviously health, wellness, fitness is absolutely a cultural element, but I don't think it fits the cultural elements where the TDC has set up these guidelines. So to me, scoring it is difficult if it doesn't meet the criteria.
I don't think we should.
So that's my concern on doing that. We have on St. Pete Beach, for instance, we have a St. Pete Beach Classic. I mean, it's a great event, brings in tons of money, probably would qualify for this, but the city of St. Pete Beach sponsors it. And, and I'm not sure that this is an event that, you know, fits our criteria through the TDC, and the city of St. Petersburg would be more suited to sponsor this event at this stage of its development. And so I am having a hard time thinking I'm going to score something that inherently I don't think fits the criteria for this category that we're scoring it under.
I agree. I don't think we should score it.
If this group has decided that it doesn't meet eligibility, then there's no need to score. It's just when it goes to the TDC, just be prepared to, if there's a discussion, there might be scoring at that point. So that's all I'm saying.
That would end up having a vote for the TDC to
determine
have
that
it
it's eligible.
considered
Correct.
as a cultural
Correct.
event.
Correct.
And then we would vote on it.
Correct.
Okay. Yes, Mike.
Mr. Chairman, couldn't we just score it on face value and then bring it up to the TDC for further discussion?
I think that's what we need to
I think
decide.
that's what she's saying.
No, you're saying you don't want to score it. I'm saying let's score it on face value, and then we can discuss it at the TDC level.
I mean, I don't necessarily have a problem scoring it. You know, it doesn't. It's not. It would be information for that TDC meeting that we could use. I do have a little bit of, the only concern I do have is that this group is saying that by scoring it, that we are saying it is a cultural event. It just doesn't meet the standards. So I just want to make sure, there's a subtle distinction. I'm not trying to, you know.
There's no right or wrong answer in this, Commissioner. I would suggest, though, that if you have scored it, those are public records. We'll take those, we'll keep them, we'll have them available. If at the full TDC meeting, then there's a determination made that it does meet the definition and it is otherwise eligible, those scores can be introduced. If they score the requisite 700, then the full TDC can vote at that point.
Phil?
Tim, you said in the past you've supported it in other ways, this particular one or the rock and roll run?
Rock and roll was funded under a whole separate funding agreement outside of even the, I think, the lead event program. This has been funded through our sports and events incentive funds program.
To the tune of how much would you say, without in kind?
I want to say it was between $5,000 and $10,000.
Correct.
And that
So
makes
there's still
total
that avenue
sense.
for them to, if they don't meet the points, there's still an opportunity possibly for you to help them out on a smaller scale.
There is.
Through a different way and help them grow a little bit. Maybe they do get big enough to have some more room nights and then qualify for Category 3.
There is, and I think one thing to note for the workshop, not to bog it down here, is that the way the old guidelines read, that if you applied in this program, you were not able to receive other funding out of Visit St. Pete Clearwater. That was removed a couple of years ago. We took that out.
Okay.
So again, not to bog down the discussion now.
I understand, but they can apply now for the other funding. We took that restriction out.
Correct.
Okay. So I think really what we need to do first is just consider this a motion here to consider it a cultural event or not, and then we'll decide to vote or not after that. So do I have a motion on whether we want to consider this a cultural event? You do want to consider it a cultural event? You do not. That's the motion, not to consider it a cultural event.
Second.
Okay, so I have a motion and a second, not to consider it a cultural event. Are there any comments before we vote? Phil? No? No? Okay. So supporting, if you vote aye, you're supporting the motion. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any against the motion? So it fails as a cultural heritage event, so it won't be considered for funding. It'll still make its way through to the TDC for discussion. That's what I'm hearing, right?
Correct.
Okay. Thank you.
Thanks for the time.
If I could go on record, since I'm not going to be at that TDC meeting, I'll be out of town. I would along with the motion, but I would recommend that the St. Pete Clearwater does support it in some form, in a smaller level as they've done in the past. Hopefully it'll nurture the event to the point where it'll be bringing room nights in to the tune of 5,000 or more, and they could be considered for Category 3 in the future.
Absolutely.
I think that's a good idea. Okay. Move on.
All right, our next event is Localtopia.
Good morning.
Good
Thanks for
morning.
the opportunity to be here. My name is Olga Boff, and I'm the founder and executive director of Keep St. Petersburg Local. We're the City of St. Petersburg's Independent Business Alliance, and we're the organization that puts on Localtopia. Localtopia is the largest community celebration of all things local in our area, and it celebrates really the best of St. Pete. So if you ever wanted to experience St. Pete's favorite businesses all in one place, you would come to Localtopia. It definitely has become one of our city's most beloved events. Last year, as in 2020's event, actually kept over 200 of our city's favorite businesses in business prior to the pandemic, since it took place at the end of February before the world changed. This year's event actually helped nearly 200 of those businesses actually recover from COVID. Many of them are makers who had not been able to actually sell at any events, markets, festivals, and they participated at Localtopia. Visit St. Pete Clearwater was our presenting sponsor this year and will be next year as well. They have a very, very large presence and great engagement at Localtopia. And I'm happy to take any other questions you may have.
Okay, questions. Again, I think this is another event that doesn't meet the standard of Category 3. It has the unique visitors, but not the room nights. Is that correct? Go ahead. Did you?
Yes, and they were funded last year.
They were funded last year?
Yes, sir.
And we did have the cultural conversation last year, or year before, whenever it was.
Can somebody share the light on that cultural conversation? Because obviously that's...
They were Category 4.
Mayor
Mayor Kreisman.
brought that at the TDC meeting, or was he
Yeah, I
part of it?
believe so, if I remember correctly. Is that how it went?
I believe
Tim?
you all scored it, and it didn't get the requisite 700 score.
Right.
And so it wasn't advanced, but then you reconsidered it under Mayor Kreisman's motion at the
Yes.
TDC meeting.
I don't exactly remember what he said as far as the culture. I think it was really more about the business community.
Okay. So again, I'm going to ask, is this group comfortable keeping it under Category 4 as a cultural event or not? And I think that's the conversation, right? And you said last year it did pass that muster.
It didn't.
It did not pass the cultural event test?
Initially.
Here?
Right. Here, it did not.
Okay.
May
Yes,
I
Melinda.
address you all in terms of the culture
Yes, please.
element? The event actually has all elements of St. Pete's culture, from our eating and drinking to our local music. It takes place at Williams Park. We have music all day that represents St. Pete. There is no other event that better represents the city of St. Petersburg than Localtopia.
I think this is, excuse me.
Go ahead, Phil.
And I agree
Hold-
with, oh, sorry.
Melinda, hold on one second. Yeah, go ahead, Phil.
So I've been on this committee several times, but I haven't been on the last couple of years, so I'm still struggling to understand what happened last year. They got funded through the program?
So initially, the subcommittee said it didn't meet the criteria of the cultural heritage group, Category 4. And if you look at the numbers, they don't meet any other criteria. So it did not reach the 700 score. We scored it, and it did not meet the score. And so when we went to the full TDC board and presented a denial of all because it didn't meet the standard of the cultural heritage, Mayor Kreisman came forward and, deliberated his point, and we gave direction to give them some funding.
So, but you did score it last year? Or?
I believe we did, and it never reached the 700.
I'm so sorry to interrupt. Actually, what happened was one of the commissioners it was her first year, and she didn't realize that Category 4 did not have to qualify for room nights, so she scored it very low, which is what did not allow it to proceed at the scoring level.
Would that have made a difference with the scoring, do you know? Yeah.
Mayor, so on that, and again, going from my memory here.
Speak into that microphone. It's hard to.
On the scoring, it missed it, so it didn't hit the 700. One of the council members, when we were discussing at the full TDC meeting, then said, wait a minute, I did not score it correctly because of the room night element to it. And when it was rescored, I believe at that point, it put it into the funding. It got funding from that point. Am I correct with that, Tim?
That's correct. And
Yeah.
just to add to that, and I apologize if it sounds contradictory, I don't think there was a discussion about the qualification that by definition, I think you just went to the scoring. So I don't think we had this discussion last year.
Gotcha.
That's my memory.
Okay.
Yeah.
Melinda, go ahead.
So if it didn't meet the scoring because the criteria for room nights, they get full credit for 200? If it doesn't, because a Category 4 isn't required, is the threshold now 500 for it to pass forward, or to,
Yeah, I think it's a good point. Do they just get the 200 because there's no attendance criteria, or do we drop the threshold to 500 and not score that category, right? I mean, that's really, yeah. Phil?
No, the requirement for the category is only attendance. So you would just strike room nights out of the potential 200, and did they actually meet the attendance
500. They
requirement?
need 500 then.
No, it would be 700 still. But in that category, you would score based on the attendance, not on room nights.
Oh, because
So
it's
it
attendance.
parses it down to just attendance, and did they meet the attendance, or did they exceed
got
the
you.
attendance, and by how much, and so forth.
So it's
it'd still be
attendance slash
700.
room nights. It's both. Or if
So
you
it
want
would
to.
just be attendance.
Yeah, okay.
And it sounds like the TDC already determined the cultural aspect of it last year, or ruled on that. Yes or no?
Tacitly, yes, because it wasn't argued. So they didn't affirmatively state it, but they didn't oppose it, is what I'm saying. We didn't have a discussion on the definition. It was simply just scored.
Okay, but I thought Mayor Kreisman,
Because it didn't get the requisite score, and then, as Steve pointed out, one of the review committee members adjusted their score because they didn't understand how to score it under the guidelines, and as a result of that changed score, it qualified.
And I think it's this category that we're talking about.
Under
is
Category 4.
Attendance slash room nights. So, Mike?
Mr. Chairman, I agree with Olga. I think this clearly is a cultural event, and I think we should proceed with the scoring as everyone has seen it.
Okay. Yes, did you have something?
I was just going to say that I think the argument from the mayor last time was that this was an important event, especially for small business, et cetera. It necessarily wasn't, hey, it fits this category. He just couldn't believe that the scoring wasn't there. And then when they went back and reviewed the scoring by the council members, that's where the one had said, wait a minute, I scored it, a 0 over here because it didn't meet the room night goal, but as a Category 4, it didn't have to have a room night. So that's where it got all, and she admitted it and then went through and changed it, and then it did bring the score up.
Okay. All right.
Commissioner?
Yes, Bill.
I'd like to motion that we consider this as a cultural event.
Okay, well, Mike.
Second.
Okay, all right, I was going to give him the motion. You the second, doesn't really matter.
Yeah,
So,
either way. I'm with Mike.
All right, so we have the motion and a second on the table to be considered a cultural event. It's one of those things where you're like, I love the idea behind the event and what it supports. It's just really important. I'm trying to could you maybe share a little bit more of your thought processes on the cultural side of it? I just want to hear more about why you think it's a cultural event.
Listen, I think as Olga has pointed out, there is, it touches virtually every part of life in St. Petersburg. It celebrates the culinary culture. It celebrates the diversity that we have in St. Petersburg. St. Petersburg has gone through a renaissance, if you will, over the last 10 years, and I think this event, unlike so many other events, ties all of that together.
Okay. Any other?
What he said.
Okay. All right. Any other comments on that motion? Yes, Melinda.
I do understand the cultural side of it, and I think absolutely, supporting small businesses, independent small, brick and mortars are the lifeblood of, and the attraction in St. Petersburg would be dining, shopping, just small business in general, and having a day to, acknowledge and celebrate and expand on that. And it does seem like we have some great exposure from Visit St. Pete being your possibly one and only sponsor, which I don't truly understand why St. Petersburg doesn't participate in that sponsorship.
It does. It's a co-sponsored event by the city, so the
Okay.
city does support the event.
Okay, so I don't know how many opportunities as far as exposure goes, except for the day of the event type stuff, or maybe in your marketing materials, I don't know.
There's a long lead up to the event, and a lot of people actually consult the Localtopia website before, during, and after the event, because it lists, as I said, several hundred different businesses, and it's not just brick and mortars. There are a lot of makers. So our artists, when we talk about culture, St. Pete is known for its arts, and we have a lot of our artists represented at the event. The website is, and they track it, right? You have your tracker, is well visited, not just the day of, but as I said, the long lead up to, and then after, because people want to continue to support those businesses.
Well, and that's where I guess I'm coming from. I understand, the cultural aspects of what you're doing and supporting small businesses or artists and all that goes with it. I'm just thinking there's so many communities throughout the county that have morning markets and have different, events that they're doing it on a completely weekly basis, and they're not coming here asking for funding. And, I'm just not sure what kind of precedent we're setting when we're, creating these. I think the event's awesome.
To the degree that the markets don't have over 20-some thousand, last year, 2020 was our over 30,000 attendees, and nearly last year 300 vendors. So to the scale that Localtopia is definitely different to a weekly market at Quarry or at the Saturday morning market. We also incorporate a lot of engaging elements, which markets don't, right? So we have activities for families, we have activities for all ages, and we have, as I said, music the whole day, and we couldn't do it this year, but even our breweries are there pouring, all day. That's not what is found at most weekly markets, right? We're a festival. That's the distinguishing element.
Oh, thank you. That's exactly the kind of information I was looking for. Thank you.
Okay.
Mayor, did you have anything?
I was just going to say, I understand where you were going, because, I can think of my own city. There are a number of festivals where we have 20 and 30,000 people that attend. That they're not trying to come in under the cultural because they don't meet the definition. So it may not be, I understand it's supporting local businesses, and I want to do that. More than you know, I'm trying to figure out all kinds of ways in Dunedin to do that. I just don't think it meets the definition of cultural heritage. And the examples we're giving is our Martin Luther King Parade that we're supporting, which absolutely meets the definition of cultural heritage. That's why it was created. And the Highland Games, which is meeting cultural heritage. And again, this is a festival that supports businesses, and in my mind, that's not meeting cultural heritage. It doesn't mean you don't deserve support, and that the event doesn't deserve support in some way, because I think it does, especially in the year of COVID where businesses are trying to bounce back. All I'm saying is it doesn't meet cultural heritage the way I see it. And I think I said the same thing last year.
So, yeah, I'm trying to wrap my head around this, the whole cultural category here. So, and if it doesn't meet the category 3, then it defaults to category 4, and it's a pretty tight, at least it was created to form a pretty tight category. And so the argument is, and I think the motion in the second is that it does meet that. And so, I think we need to take a vote on whether we want to consider it that category. Some of us have scored it. It'll go forward to the TDC in any event. But I think that this group is just, its mission or its job is really to say, does it meet these categories and it's to an acceptable level? And so I think go ahead, Mike.
Commissioner, I was just going to suggest that this is a definition of meeting the cultural category. It should be broad and ambiguous, and I think it gives us leeway to score and award the funding. There's many other organizations, and Mayor, you pointed out there's so many that happen just in your community. For whatever reason, they opted not to come here and to ask for funding. You have, and I think it's warranted. I think a broad and ambiguous interpretation is in line here.
Then this would be year 3, just to clarify. Last year was not our first year of funding.
Yeah. But again, I don't know, did it get accepted for funding at this level, at this committee?
Up to $25,000, yes.
Last year it did?
Correct.
Okay. Okay. Again, I think one of the things that we're going to talk about at the end in the meeting briefly is just a reference to the fall when we take a look at this process again and get into these categories perhaps, and either provide an additional category or tighten up on categories or whatever it might be, because we just want to be very careful paths that we go down, so that a precedent is the word that we've used a few times this morning. And we just have to be careful with these bed tax dollars. So I think that fall conversation, we won't be talking about any projects in specific, but we'll be talking about how we want to do this thing going forward. And do we want to do it the same way? Do we want to amend it? Do we want to create another category? Do we want to, those kinds of discussions, I think, will be beneficial to answering some of this. Go ahead.
Again, from a historic perspective, toward the end of the special event grant program, we were getting some very small weekend festivals that were strictly, maybe they were a little bit cultural. I could name a couple, but in my mind, it was just, we were getting inundated with too many small things. Yeah. And that's not really what it was supposed to be about. Fortunately, we had this thing called the Great Recession, and we had to eliminate the program altogether. And then I introduced it again as an elite event to make sure that it was going to be larger events. And it started off with just the 2 categories, then we got to category 3, and now we've got category 4. But I'm supporting this because of what Mike has said. I'm in agreement with what he's saying, and also the size of it. I mean, if they had 30,000 people attend this thing, that's no small feat. That's no small gathering. And that's why I would support this one, but I would not support all the other ones. If somebody came in and said, oh, we have 10,000, well, that's not 30,000. And I caution whether we open up a group 5 and end up having to, $5,000, it just takes too much staff time to deal with it.
I wasn't implying that that's what we were going to do. I was just saying that we're going to have that discussion in the fall to see if we, how we want to address some of this. I think the point that you all made about it, and I think you made it as well, that this has been funded from this group and the TDC in the past. I'm going to err on the side of supporting this as a cultural event for scoring purposes. I don't know. We didn't actually vote. I know the maker of the motion and second have supported it, so I guess we'll have an official vote on that, unless there's any other comments. All in favor of the motion and the second to support this as a cultural event, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed?
Nay.
Did you say nay? I'm sorry. Okay. 3-2 to support it as a cultural event for this year's purposes. So now we go ahead and unless there's any other comments, we'll go ahead with the scoring, and then we'll see how that goes. So,
okay, Mr. Henderson, your score, please.
725.
725. Ms. Pletcher? 600. Mayor Bajowski?
700.
700. Chair Akers?
700.
700. Mr. Williams?
750.
750. And Trish Rodriguez?
Mike, your score was 750, is that correct? 750. Okay. Tricia, score of 550, the average 670.8.
Okay.
Same thing that happened last year.
Is it? Okay. Okay, well, there'll be more discussion to come at the TDC for sure, so, on that item, so.
We had one more application that did not meet the criteria. It's listed there on your agenda, so I wanted to make sure on the record that we brought that to your attention, that the Books at the Beach convention, again, on the face of the application, didn't qualify, and we notified them of that. And so unless you want to make special consideration, they would not be considered here. And with that, Chair Akers, that concludes all the scoring.
Okay. Any other thoughts on that one, item 20? Okay, so did not meet the criteria. We're not going to. And with that said, I guess we've gotten through our events. Make sure on your scoring category that you write down your name at the bottom.
Yeah, so we'd like to collect those, if you would, please, either give them to myself or Liz before you leave. We collect those.
I'll just leave them on the corner of your table.
Okay.
So, we'll go to Steve. Did you have some comments you wanted to make?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. Michael, did we cover everything we needed to from your perspective?
Yes, thank you.
Good. All right, just checking on that. The last two things that I just wanted to bring up is, one is, again, I wanted to thank you for your time to go through the books and all the applications, again, to read everything, score everything, your comments, your participation. Thank you. It's an extremely important part of our process. As the commissioner brought up, and again, Phil, I appreciate your historical perspective on this, and again, as I think in the fall, is we're going to revisit this program to say, hey, how do we continue to improve this process, refine some things, and again, your input as members of the TDC would be critically important. So that'll get us ahead of the curve for next year's application process. So again, just be looking for that date for a workshop. Second item I have is hopefully each of you received an email related to strategic plan and a link to click and make an appointment, and you've made that. With all the spam out there, it seems like my stuff goes to spam, and I just was verifying that you guys got that. So please schedule some time to talk with the folks on the strategic plan, because your input is going to be critically important. And then the last thing I just wanted to bring up is, I can't believe we're talking about it 2 years later, but red tide. And I just want to give you guys a quick update of what's going on and some of the things that we're doing. We participated on a phone call yesterday with county's marketing communications folks, as well as Public Works, as well as the EOC, looking at messaging, information that we're sending out. Also working with Fish and Wildlife Commission to gather daily information. We've launched beachesupdate.com. That is the hub of information that includes beach-by-beach breakdown, the presence of red tide, whether there's respiratory irritation and or presence of dead fish. Also, frequently asked questions that people can refer to as well. We've sent 2 updates to the industry, and we will continue to go through and do that. So again, we're on this. Again, we're watching it closely. We will be having calls at least twice a week right now, involving the work team of the groups that I mentioned. But again, to keep not only potential visitors but current visitors informed of what's going on. I wanted you guys to know, because that's a hot topic right now, as pretty much the whole coast go through and experience this in some form or fashion.
And I was just looking at something while you were speaking, so you may have commented on this, and I apologize. Have we hired a contractor yet to do the actual cleaning that's necessary, the cleanup that's necessary? Do you know?
In the call yesterday, I believe Kelly said that there was somebody on standby.
Okay.
And it may have been the same person that was involved last time.
Okay.
I also believe they were getting the tipping fee waived. There were a couple other things. A lot of this was new to me in terms of the process, but that was some of those conversation points.
I think that was an important part the last time this happened. It had a lot of cleanup to keep it from there. Yeah, Mike, and then you. Go ahead, Mike.
Steve, thank you. The updates you've sent out, the two so far, have been very helpful. And I think it's important for us to keep that dialogue going so that if we have to change our marketing tactics, our messaging, and this becomes as much of a PR play as it is an occupancy play, that we're on top of it. And I know from our standpoint, our PR folks are working hard with it.
Thank you, sir.
Mayor?
I was just going to ask, I know they've done a lot of testing in South County. Are they going to do any testing, does anybody know, in North County?
I believe there's some testing, but I'd have to go back and check, Mayor. Yes, I'll have to check on that.
Okay, thank you.
But I know on the one page that we have, they were listing specific information of tests, so I think it was moving up the coast, so they were testing as it moves up the coast.
Right, and that's the way I looked at it, but because I just remember last time, it started in the South County, and we didn't get a whole lot of it in North County, but we got enough to panic people, and I know people are going to be asking, what are the test scores for Dunedin, Clearwater, Tarpon, Palm Harbor, and so I'd like to be able to tell them something.
All right.
Tim?
Yeah, if I could, just take a moment. I want to thank staff, especially Craig Campbell, Katie Bridges, Liz, Terry, as we go forward in this process. It's a heavy lift in this program. It gets cumbersome and awkward at times. We're trying to do our best to keep in mind the fact that we're trying to promote tourism here, but also help these events. And I just want to point out the fact that they do a great job on our behalf in doing this, so thank them. And again, to remind all the applicants, the next step in this process would be TDC approval, then up to the Board of County Commission. Then you'll hear from us in terms of going forward on a contract negotiation.
And those meetings that will be considered TDC will be this month?
Next week.
Next week, okay, so just so you all from a timing. And then Board of County Commissioners will be this
2 weeks,
month,
sorry,
or?
2 weeks.
Yeah, 2 weeks for TDC, and then probably one of the July meetings.
There's only one in July.
Yeah, so the July
Okay.
meeting.
We're
So
targeting
July,
that.
I think it's 13th.
We're targeting that month,
Okay.
yes.
We don't know yet for sure.
No.
Okay.
And then at that point, then when it all gets approved, you then reach out to the event operators and you
Yes.
negotiate
Correct.
that up to funding.
Exactly, and I do want to underscore that. It is up to funding. You all, a couple years ago, and Mr. Henderson will know this, that you gave us the latitude to negotiate these where we don't find the value, but typically we try to find value, but yes.
Okay. Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, Phil.
And refresh my memory on what our budget this year is for this.
It's the same 1.55 million.
Okay, so
And we're well under that, correct. But we do, I'll check with Terry, the funding of the research in the past came out of here, but I think we reallocated that out separately, so.
And is this the largest number of?
We've had more in terms of the aggregate number, but both in terms of the number of applications and the ask. Remember, we brought the program down substantially a few years ago where it was capped at 250. So with the category maximums reduced, yeah, we can manage pretty well under the program right now.
Right.
To the 1.5 million. Mm-hmm.
But I do think we set a record today.
We did have 1,000 vote, first time ever, I believe. So
Now,
yes.
Tony gave Jazz Holiday 1,000 once.
Oh, did it? Okay, sorry. Yeah, but that's what I wanted to say, Chair.
And I'm talking about this, less than 2
Oh, and
hours.
timing? I believe last year's Zoom call was less time. We drove the Zamboni and cleared the ice pretty quickly last year, so. Yeah.
All right.
All right. Yeah, Mike.
Just a question, Mr. Chairman. Have we ever done a look back at these events and said we anticipated the economic impact to be X. The reality was X plus or minus a certain percentage, to go back and validate what we voted on and funded on any particular year.
Remember that conversation last year?
Yes, and a couple of TDC meetings ago, I brought this forward, and I shared with you, and it was a link on the agenda, and you had hard copies. But we do have that analysis, and we're prepared to talk about that at the workshop, and what you might want to do with this information, what we might want to look at. So yes, we're prepared to have that conversation when you're ready.
Because I think that's, the ultimate test. I mean, certainly all of these organizations bring value to the area, but, we're parceling out dollars that it would always be nice to go back and validate whether it made sense or not.
And it's never been a criteria to look back and see if that performance issue has never been part of this. So I'll just leave you with that as we go forward to the workshop.
Good. Thank you.
Okay, any other comments before we adjourn? Again, thank you all for being here and for your organizations and the work you do for our residents. And we're adjourned. Thank you.